Welcome to another MotorTown update video. This time around we got the 0.7.16 update, which is currently in public testing. This means that it's not fully finished and not out for everybody yet, but deemed far enough along and stable enough for most people to enjoy it. So if you want to opt into the public testing branch, you need to get to your Steam library. Right-click on MotorTown, go to Properties, Betas, and then select the public testing branch from the drop-down menu. And yeah, before you do that, please make sure to get a save file backup just in case, especially when rolling back from the testing branch to the live version. Things can get a bit messy. Also, since we are in spooky season and this update is bringing back the Halloween stuff, I think it might be a very short public testing phase, so it might be worth just waiting a day or two, and I think at that point it will likely be out for everybody. But yeah, before we get into the Halloween stuff, I want to start with all the other fully new content. And the first thing on my list is Capture the Flag. Of course, a popular game mode from other games, but now also available in MotorTown. What you need to do is go to Events, then Create Event, and then go to Capture Flag. First up, this is multiplayer only. You need at least another person in order to play this. Doesn't start without it, but I can at least show you guys the menus and run you through the entire thing in principle. So when the host opens up the event, the play area is going to be created right around them. And everybody wanting to participate needs to get into the play area and also join the event to appear in the list over here. And once the host starts the event, one player will just get the flag. And if you hold the flag over time, you will gain points. Everybody else at that point is trying to ram you in order to get the flag from you. This is of course played with cars. And yeah, by the end, the person who first reaches the point limit is going to be the winner. There's also a slowdown for the flag holders so that they cannot run away. And I mean, overall, it's a pretty simple game mode, but from what I tried out, it's really fun. Just likely needs a few people to make this really interesting and get to intercept people and that kind of thing. But yeah, if you're on a server, I highly recommend trying this out. As a host, you got a few options here to make this a bit more customized. First up, you can go into edit mode to change the area. For example, if I want to play this on Anson Island, I just click in the middle of the island. That's going to give me the play area over here. And now I just need to center the map on that part again. But I can also then change the radius in order to include the entire thing. Maybe even this little tiny island if I so choose. I can change the point limit how I want to. Going up to 300, which is going to be quite a long one. By the way, I'm not entirely sure if only one person needs to reach the point limit or everybody but one. I think it's going to be only one, but I can't say for certain. Also, you can change the slowness factor for the person holding the flag. Might be really good for different vehicle types. I think cars with a low amount of torque might need less slowdown than ones with like a heavy duty engine and that kind of thing in there. You can also, of course, change requirements for vehicles and the engines allowed. But yeah, from what this one reads, basically this is more like, I think, engine power restriction. So slowness 100, I think, means actually getting the full engine power. Because in the end, you can only go down to 10% and not fully 0. So I think this is going to leave you with 10% of your power left. So yeah, that's at least what I'm reading here. Anyways, that's the new mode here. Once again, didn't really think too much of it, but in practice it's quite a good amount of fun for a bit of a silly session. Just make sure that you don't run off a cliff or something. Repairing is gonna be a bit of an issue if you don't have any repair station in the area. You cannot auto-repair, you cannot prevent damage or anything, so yeah, if you crash early, you might really screw yourself over for the rest of the event. Anyways, let's get to the next thing. I'll also quickly close the event here. The next thing is the drag strip. The basic foundation has been laid out on the public version already, but we now get the full functionality, all the stuff here, all the props. This is working amazingly well and also looking really great. So to give you guys the run around real quick, on the south end we got a few parking spots, gas station including an EV charger, and on the northwest end we get repair garages, of course also for tuning and that kind of thing. Apart from the parking spots, everything that I just mentioned needs 10% or higher town bonus in ARA in order to fully function. Otherwise, these things won't be open, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, the drag strip is also fully functional, so let me show you guys what that looks like. And yeah, the area as a whole, just really, really nice. Just driving around here one time to show you guys what this looks like, and yeah, that's a new vehicle. We'll talk about that a bit later. But yeah, just some nice areas, some grandstands and that kind of thing, and also yeah, different other parts here, which is all really cool to see. But the best thing about this is without doubt the drag strip itself. To be clear, I have a bit less than a fleeting interest in drag racing. I don't care about that too much. But in this game, honestly, this is amazing. Starting a drag race is completely seamless. There are no menus or anything. It's really natural. And it also works as a versus mode in multiplayer. All you have to do is roll up to the pre-stage area. And if you are in multiplayer and want to wait for somebody else to join, this is where you do it. One person has to be in pre-stage already, and the other person then can also roll into pre-stage, which is basically saying that I'm ready, and once both people are in pre-stage, they can go into staging, which is also where you get the countdown. I can also go back into pre-staging, heat up my tires a bit more, that kind of thing. And yeah, this is how you basically start the entire thing here. So go into pre-stage, staging, waiting for the countdown, more or less, and then getting into gear and running down the straight to the other end. And that's it. That's one of the drag races done. Okay, let's go right away again, just return to the start. We got all of these branching paths in order to have people go back to the starting area real quick without staying on the drag strip. And at this point already the next pairing could be starting if you have multiple people. This is so nice. It runs very smoothly, completely seamless, no menus, and you also get really precise timing on everything. I want to open the chat here. So besides the pop-up slip that you get, you can also see this in chat. 12.312 seconds, reaction time 0.409. I don't know what ET stands for, but I know this is basically the run without the reaction time. Yeah, just a bit over 11.9 seconds, and a top speed of 207.4 kilometers per hour. So this is really good, and it's absolutely addicting trying to figure out just a dragster build. just going back and forth between running the drag strip a few times and then going back to the tuning garage. So yeah, absolutely amazing. And despite thinking that I would maybe spend like 10 minutes on this, it's been more like 5 hours at this point. This is really, really cool, both in single player and multiplayer. But yeah, since it's in public testing right now, there are a few things that aren't all that amazing, or maybe need a bit more work to be a bit more fair about this. First up, the boxes here, those are the laser system for getting the times, and they have the holes of the laser back down here, so this is where the infrared would come out of, and realistically this should react to the tire braking the laser. Doesn't really do that right now. I don't know how exactly this is set up in the game, but right now it seems to be looking at the center of the car, and depending on what kind of vehicle you use, you might get very weird things happening here. So that's on the Trello to be sorted out at some point. Also, there are some timing displays on the other end. They are not functional right now. Also, they don't even render far enough. So that might need some work. And yeah, while there is a bit of an area radius here that basically sends out the message over here in the chat right now to other people as well. And yeah, it's also showing multiple runs and all of that. This is really nice for keeping track of things. In the end, the radius is a bit too small. It seems to only affect people at this end. And I think especially when you're running events, it should be doing the entire rectangular area that the drag strip is based on. Right now it seems to be a bit too little in order to really keep track of things. Unless you have people self-reporting their times and that kind of thing. But yeah, overall, amazing stuff. Had much more fun with it than I expected, and I think that's going to continue. Also, there are a few achievements here. Most of them are just for the amount of times that you run a drag race. I think the maximum is 500, so that's gonna be quite a while. But there's also one for perfect reaction time, so 0.000. So that's gonna be pretty hard to reach, but hey, if you get it, it's gonna be real quick. At least in one sense. Like, it's gonna need a few hundred attempts here and there. We'll see if I ever get it. But yeah, cool stuff. Been enjoying this much more than I expected, but this is not where the update ends. We got a few other things to talk about. So let's get into the tuning shop here. Because we finally got brake balancing. So up until this point, brake bias has been just a thing that was set up for every single car, and that was it. Most cars way too front heavy on the braking, and we can finally change it. To be clear, I got some issues with this whole thing, but I want to run you guys through this first. So basically what you do is you take 10% of one axle and put it onto another axle. That's how all of these work. You can increase it to the front up to 50% and decrease it on the rear by up to 50%. And you can also do vice versa. With what I just said, yeah, most of the time you want to actually have more taken from the front and attributed to the rear. And what this does is not only make the brakes more effective, it also means that since it's not all on the front brakes to slow down the car, they don't overheat all that much, so braking has just become much more consistent, both in strength as well as doing this for a longer race. It's just working out beautifully. This is a really nice system with a few buts. First up, this is all changing in accordance to the default brake bias. That's not shown in the game. You would need to go to motortown.info to see what the standard brake bias on every single car is. For example, the Stella has a front brake bias of 96% to 10% in the rear. I think that's just the overall maximum brake strength that it could have. So yeah, that doesn't mean that you are getting stupidly powerful brakes that go beyond 100%. It's just that one brake is very close to its maximum and the other one really isn't. So with that, you might want to even consider changing this by -40 plus 40. So that would be 56% in the front and 50% in the rear. That's basically balanced evenly. But yeah, without knowing the standard brake bias, it's really hard to make an informed decision here. I mean, in the end, you always want to test out the stuff, so you will see what's happening there. But yeah, it would be nice if it really showed you what's going on here and just displayed all the brake strengths on every single axle. And it's getting even more complicated because honestly, I have no idea what it does on different axle configurations that are more than 3. What does it do on a 6x2 truck, a 6x4, and even the 8x4s? We got the Atlas dump with 2 front axles that are steering. We got the Golima rotator with basically 1 front axle that is steering, then already on the rear a lift axle, and then 2 driven axles. Am I taking brake bias of the front 2 axles all the time and attributing it to the rear 2 axles? It doesn't tell me. I don't know. And yeah, that's a bit of an issue. I already put out a feedback post on that. Maybe I need to boost that again, but right now, yeah, that's all kinda unaddressed. So overall, I love that we have the option. You notice it very quickly when you set up your car correctly that it's just way better than before. But I think the way it's implemented really doesn't work too well. It's very obtuse and it should be a lot more clear with what's really happening here. There's definitely an UI element needed. And I think overall I would rather have the option to adjust the brake strength on every single axle individually than having to mix and match these kind of things. I mean, we get the raw brake power increase in this menu. Might just do this on a per axle basis and include a few more options. Then we should be good. But overall, this is still a huge W for the racing community. This is making things so much nicer in general. I don't want to overshadow this with the things that I think it should be doing in addition to this. Also, while we are on this topic, there are new wheels available, like the one that I have in the front now, that's from the new car. And there are basically 2 versions of this. And I should maybe just scroll down because it's at the very bottom. So first up this one, which is already pretty heavy, and yeah, these are all paintable. But yeah, this is more normal size, and this one twice as heavy, but also very thick. Not that thickness of tire does anything in the game. I've recently done some testing for the next tuning guide. But yeah, very heavy, very thick, and just really interesting looking. Of course, full-on dragster tires. The size difference, by the way, comes from the vehicle itself. If you have a car that has larger rear tires than fronts, then it's always gonna keep that proportion, like what it does with this one. But just because you get the new tires equipped, I mean the new wheels, you're not just suddenly going to change the overall size of everything. That's still tied to the vehicle itself. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Okay, now on to the next thing, and that is something that a lot of people have also been asking for quite a while. And this is furniture with item storage. So yeah, let's go over to the furniture store to check this one out. This is really quite nice. It's available in the, I don't know what you call this, the miscellaneous furniture store right here. And it's this one over here. Buy it for 2,000 and get free inventory slots. Yes, I've already made a complaint about this being too little, especially compared to how large the car storage is. Like you can get 5 point storage on any truck or something like that. So that's definitely a lot smaller, the box on there, than this entire thing. So this doesn't really reflect its physical size or anything. But overall, this is pretty nice for different things like leftover blueprints or all the time limited costumes and that kind of thing. I got myself something set up over here for the different costumes apart from the uniforms. So I got 3 of each in here. And yeah, that's basically how the entire thing works right now. I have a few problems with this, honestly. First up, I don't like inventory management in games too much. It's been a huge turn-off for me in games like Minecraft and similar. And while Motortown thankfully doesn't have that many items, it's a bit of a problem that we cannot really tell what's in here. Like there's no way to write on this thing to say, hey, this is the Scarecrow costume. I think one of these is the hot dogs and the other one is the Santa. And don't know what's in the other ones. But yeah, that's one problem because I would now have to go through all of these. It doesn't even really tell me when I'm in here. I can hover over this to say, okay, costume 2. That doesn't help me that much either. So in terms of quality of life, this is kind of a nightmare. And I also had an idea which got considered but ultimately not added, likely also because of time issues. I would love to have furniture that has linked inventory. Basically one big old chest, maybe like a dresser, cupboard, whatever. And wherever you build it, if you have multiple copies, it doesn't matter in which one you look into, you would get the same inventory in all of them, making it much easier to just put something somewhere and still have it available everywhere. Because the last thing I want to do is build up myself like 10 different storage compartments in 10 different properties here and then not have access to everything and just have to go through every single one in order to find out what I really need. Right now I'm using this for the costumes mainly because after all, it's a bit of a pain keeping them on vehicles all the time, as I have been doing for the past year and I never really liked that. But overall, with how it is right now, this isn't much of an elegant solution either. Could at least get a preview when you hover over the stuff. But I think in terms of quality of life, there are still quite a few things to be done here. But hey, overall, I love that we got this option at all. But there are still things they could do to make this so much better. But yeah, I think that's all that I got to say about this. I think there are more options for inventory storage planned, but this is the only one that we got right now. Okay, with that all being said, and since we are getting the sun down here, let's go over to the Spooky Mansion because Halloween is back. And that means the Spooky Mansion is open again. This place is amazing, it's creepy, and now it's full of time-limited stuff that you can buy. If you buy it right now, you can keep it all the year around, but the purchase options are going to go away once the Halloween event is gonna be over. To be clear, there isn't much of a reason to rush onto the testing branch for this. The event usually lasts for about a month or something, from what I remember. So there's more than enough time to get all the stuff if you want to. But yeah, there are different costumes around here. I think there's like 10 of them. And they are basically put on mannequins that are looking way too real. And there's also a whole lot of furniture in here that you can buy. So stuff like this spooky grandfather clock over here. The problem is, compared to last year we had all the usual prices floating above the stuff, so it was much easier to identify what the things really are, but right now with that all being gone, you need to really walk up to a place or walk up to an item and see what's really happening here. But yeah, this is actually a purchasable thing. This one as well. Same with this one right here. I gotta get one of these. I love these. Super vibrant and everything. Some of these might not be. Or there might be another copy of this framed picture that is available for purchase somewhere else. It's a bit inconsistent and you really gotta look out for the stuff that you wanna get. Can't get the chandelier. There might be another one over in another place though. I don't want to go through everything here right now because this place is kinda massive. It also has, I think, multiple underground levels. Yeah, this one is just to sit in. But feel free to explore, especially at night. This area is always giving me the creeps, and yeah, let's see what you can find. There's a lot of cool stuff in here, which sadly isn't available all year round. Oh, I can buy myself another flashlight over here. Nice. But yeah, this is the Halloween mansion. In addition to all of this stuff, which is just returning from last year and the years prior. And to be clear, the entire grounds here has stuff, so keep an eye out for everything here. It's not all just inside the mansion. But yeah, besides all this stuff, which is just returning from last year and the prior years, there's also some other things. We got 3 more costumes in addition to that, and I'm going to spoil the location for them real quick. One of them is somewhere over here, just on the side of the road near one of the trees. One of them is over here in Jeju. I can also show you guys that one real quick. That's the animatronic design. This one right here. And I think the last one is right here in Jeju near one of the vendors, I think near the decor shop. So that's all of these options. So make sure to grab them as well because they're not going to be around all year either. Maybe this one is gonna make a comeback for Easter, who knows? I kinda doubt it. It's not really giving me Easter Bunny vibes, more like Murder Bunny. But yeah, so much about all of that. So, the one thing that I didn't mention about the Halloween stuff is the ghosts. The reason for that is they are not in the game. I don't know if it's an oversight or on purpose. The thing is, for people who joined the game this year, there is an achievement for hunting ghosts, basically running them over with your car. Without the ghosts being active, you cannot get those. You cannot get that achievement. The thing though, the ghosts sometimes have collision. Not all the time. I don't think they are meant to, but last year around, they were a bit annoying, and they stuck around for way too long. And honestly, that's why I kind of don't really mind them not being here right now. It absolutely sucks for people who wanna get the ghost hunting achievement, but they cannot do that right now. But as it is, the ghosts make the game worse. Let's be honest about that. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens to those. So, yeah, one last big thing missing, of course, the new car. And for that we need to go to the Anson race car factory, because it got another functionality. We are now producing two vehicles over here. We have the race car factory for the FSCM, and then the Raven factory for the brand new Raven. And yeah, the Raven takes the same amount of resources as the Formula SCM. One coil, 6 box pallet A, which got thankfully made a bit easier to find now. And of course 2 20-foot containers. So yeah, quite a few resources, but thankfully with a full release they made it a bit less of a pain to get all of this. Apart from, of course, the steel coils being still part of quite the massive supply chain. But yeah, after you get all of that, you need to wait until the car spawns in, and then it's still going to cost you 100k. So let me take my own one here into the light and then show you guys what you can do with the entire thing. And honestly, it's not all that much. The lights that I put on here are from the attachment shop that's basically just put on there. Because this entire car right now, it has zero customization. It also drives pretty awful, which is why I put the inline 4 engine into it, just to make it a bit more bearable. But honestly, this thing, it's not great. I would love to customize the hell out of it, but yeah, as you can see, there are no options over here for anything like different body parts. We cannot take off the hood or anything. I would love to have some nice default fenders, maybe smoothed out fenders, different other options. Maybe chopping the roof, that would be amazing, but there is nothing. You can turn it into a taxi as per usual. You can also give it a trailer hitch. But outside all of that, nothing. There is apparently something planned for it, because in the earliest version, in the private testing, it had 2 different overlapping exhaust options. But one of those has been removed, the side pipes are gone, and nothing really has been added in order to make this any more customizable than just the color decals and stuff that you can stick onto it. Let me check one other thing here. Oh yeah, there's also the gray leather roof or whatever that is, and that apparently also cannot be changed. Body 2 is actually pretty interesting. That's the frame down below, so I could make this yellow if I wanted to. So that's a cool option for a few things, depending on what you're planning to do with this. But yeah, overall, kinda underwhelming on that department. And handling wise, as I already said, it might be a nice cruiser. But if you wanna just go somewhere in a pinch, this one is most likely gonna hurt you more than it's going to help, so be careful. Of course, the stuff in the front grille is also something that I put in there myself, so there are a few things that you can do with this, but overall nothing special compared to any other car. So while overall it's pretty nice having a hot rod, this one I'm not too much of a fan of. Would really need to be highly customizable, and honestly even with the proportions. I get that the cars have been maybe a bit larger back then, but this one compared to anything regular size is just looking like a monster truck. And this is already lowered down considerably. But if I put this next to the other car here, yeah, that roofline basically goes up to my trunk or something. Can you stop for a quick comparison real quick, good sir? Thank you. Yeah, my trunk line is as high as that dude's roof, and so it's basically the front hood here. So yeah, it might be accurate to the real thing, but to me it feels kind of out of place. And that's also why I put this last, because I'm not too much of a fan. Once again, if we could modify this, really, if we could get some cool tunes on it, just really go crazy on the customization, then this would be a really nice one. But as it is, it comes with OpenVS, you cannot do anything about it, you cannot change anything else about the body, and that's just... it's a bit sad. Something like this definitely needs a good amount of customization, in my opinion. Also, one thing that might come later down the line that would make the entire production process potentially a bit more interesting. I suggested for the production having to find a barnyard, or just a wrecked version in a barn somewhere. So basically having to tow one over here, and then that counting is one of the requirements here to get the whole thing to produce. I think that would be a bit more logical than this one being built up completely from scratch. But yeah, it is what it is right now. Also, to be clear, this one by default comes with a 4-speed muscle transmission and the strongest V8 in the game, so it's not a weak one. But yeah, I had to change out quite a few things in order to make this a bit more drivable. Can recommend trying OpenDiff with this vehicle. It's much less spinny outy once you do that. But there's so much about all of this. Let's quickly go into the last few things. We are done with the main content here, so just the last few points on things that got added. Motorpedia got a few more things in it, like cargo types and deliveries. We should also, when selecting a car, get... come on. Yeah, we get a map where it also shows where it can be purchased. So if I go to this one, sadly doesn't update. I reported that already. Might have just not made it in here in time yet, but hopefully sooner or later. But yeah, it also shows purchase locations on the map, including where to get there or how to get there. Don't know if you can mark it on the map like that, but yeah. Makes it easier to find things if you need to, and there are also things regarding cargo options, including where to get them from. So I don't know if this is the perfect solution for understanding supply chains, but it's definitely a welcome addition or to find out where to get a specific type of cargo. So that's all really nice. Another thing that has been added is, or has been slightly changed. In order to take off a costume, you now need to first put it in your hands, and then you can take off the costume. It's not available all the time anymore, which means there won't be any conflict with all the other stuff that you are doing on foot. So if you just want to wear the costume, it's not just going to get in your way and constantly ask you to unequip it when you are doing other stuff like throwing trash bags around. So that's a really welcome change. The Monarch Limo also now got its comfort rating set to 7. So it's now on par with the Nemo, which is what I always wanted to be for that whole thing. So basically, you can now choose between the two options and you won't get any downsides from either of them. Both are equal, and I think that's pretty cool. Kinda necessary. Last but not least, we also got a turnaround loop at Gappa over here. So we can now use the new little road for AI vehicles in order to turn around and go the other direction. If you have a route that maybe takes some stuff from the corn farm and then goes back down the other direction or something, you won't have it to then go around here. It can now just go like this and return over here. Might also be helpful if you want to do a bus route just inside Gappa or something. Don't know why you would do that, but this is definitely a nice option if you just want to catch the last few bus stops before the bus would be leaving town. So yeah, cool little addition, and with how the company stuff works, I think they might want to add even more than this. These would be really useful in a lot of different areas, so nice to see them adding something like this. But yeah, that's gonna be all for me for this update video. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a good one, and bye bye.